want to thank the choir for that beautiful prayer hymn for us to know that we can always go and share with Jesus Christ our concerns, our needs, our thanksgivings, our joys. And two prayer requests I meant to mention was for us to continue to remember Dave Miles' sisters in prayer. One that's home and the other one that's still in the hospital to my knowledge.
I had a message from Kay last night, her sister-in-law passed away.
Okay, I had not heard that.
Yes, she sent me a message last night.
Okay.
And Martha, I think is the one.
Martha,
The other one
okay.
is home, but not doing well, but her Margaret, the one they call Sissy Elmore, she did pass away.
Okay,
So
so,
she just wants to spend the day with her brother, she said.
okay, so let us, keep, Dave and his family in prayer. And as we, get those arrangements, we'll get that communication out.
They're receiving friends tonight.
Okay, tonight,
And burial tomorrow.
okay, where will that be?
At Parks and Jellicoe.
Okay, Hearts and Jellicoe. Okay, tonight and tomorrow. Okay, we appreciate that update, and I'll, try to get an email out on that, too. Okay,
Yeah, that's not David's sister.
It's Kay's brother.
Kay's brother's wife.
okay, so it's a sister-in-law to Dave as well.
Yeah.
Okay, and well, thank you for, even clarifying that relationship there. Okay, and we're so glad to have, once again, Roger and Kyle with us, and we're glad to have Jamie home with us, and we get to stay all week, we have to go back. But we're so glad to get to have you and Julie together, and have y'all been any mischief yet? Not enough time, is there?
Yeah, tell them the carnival, we'll fall at carnival last night.
I know, when I saw the sign, I said, the carnival has come and about gone, and I had forgot it again. Cause I was wanting to drive by anyway, but, and I never did look in the right direction when I was downtown. So, cause is it still through today, is it?
I think last night.
Last night, okay. Okay, they're already gone, I even missed the parade and everything. I know when we lived in Amherst, at least we could see the circus train that would stop, in our backyard, and we'd think,
Brother Harry, mentioning the carnival, Jenny had took her kids to the carnival, and Jenny had got to see it. And someone went back home with her, but CJ had stayed. Well, CJ got to see it, and he started walking home. Jenny said that she'd pick him up at about 7:30. But he got sick before that and started walking home. And he was walking home, and this guy in the truck tried to get him to come to him. And CJ wouldn't. And the man jumped out and he hit CJ pretty bad. And they're looking for the truck. And the policeman came and helped CJ up off the road. And at the same time, a silver vehicle was behind that truck. And they called into the police. So they're looking for him. But CJ's okay.
Anything that we can do to be of encouragement to him and to your family, we'll definitely hope. That is just so sad when things like that happen in our world. So peace to you all. Okay, our scripture today comes from the Gospel of John in the 13th chapter, verses 31 through 35. When he was gone, Jesus said, "Now the Son of Man is glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will glorify the Son in himself, and will glorify him at once. My children, I will be with you only a little longer. You will look for me, and just as I told the Jews, so I tell you now, where I am going, you cannot come. A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. Oh, loving God, we do ask that you will help us to practice what Jesus has taught us.
Amen.
And as we talk about how we learn to love,
Yes.
that you will help us to improve constantly in following this example. Speak to us.
Yes.
Amen.
Amen.
Jesus was betrayed, and Jesus had gathered in that upper room to celebrate Passover, what we call Last Supper now. And as he did that, he knew that he would be betrayed by one that was there, denied, and disassociated with others in that upper room. But Jesus, as John had given the direction there, that Jesus loved his disciples to the end. Because Jesus then humbled himself and washed feet, broke bread, shared the cup, and said, my body, my blood, given for you. And all this begins, as Judas has gone to betray Jesus. And we could use those initials, WWJD, dates myself. What would Jesus do? What would Jesus do? Would he trash talk Judas? Saying, well, I know what he's going to go do. Would he pout in self-pity, knowing what awaited him? Would he give a cold shoulder to those in that upper room who would run, hide, and deny? No, Jesus doesn't do what I might have done, but he says, love one another as I have loved you. Love as I have loved you. And Jesus not only tells them, but he shows them that love. As he washes feet, as he breaks bread, as he gives the cup and says, remember my body, my blood, given for you. Love one another as I have loved you. It's easier to love people when they're nice to us, isn't it? A lot easier. And when people are not nice to us, it's not as easy to love people. But it's also not always easy when we don't feel good, when we're not at our best. Sometimes we are unable to love as good as we may have loved at other times. Sometimes we're having a bad day. Has anybody ever had a bad day? So it happens, doesn't it? Sometimes more often than not. I think of the person who gets up after realizing the alarm didn't go off. And immediately you're behind. And as you're rushing about trying to get out the door, you're trying to find matching socks. And you can't find them. You're rushing out with that cup of coffee and you spill it on those clothes. And if you're lucky, you can change, and if you can't, you have to go through the whole day with coffee-stained clothes. And then as you're going, you have a flat tire, then you have to have that fixed. And then you finally get to work. And everybody says, what are you doing here? It's your day off. Sounds like Carrie. I say, Kara, you didn't remind me. That's my mantra with Kara, remind me. But we realize that sometimes loving comes much more easily than at other times. But sometimes individually we have that challenge. But also, we also have group ways of loving. As a church, we are a body together, and we have the chance to love as Christ has taught us to love. And once again, all those scenarios can fall into place. But we also know that some places, some congregations are better at loving than other ones. But we also realize that the command is still the same. Love as I have loved. And when we think about that challenge, that opportunity of being able to do that sometimes when we say, I'm going to do better, that we get challenged even more. We get tested and tried. And we think, I need to do better. I need to do better. To love one another as I have loved you. Jesus was not having a good day. Probably his worst day. He was being denied. He was being betrayed. He was being denied. He is about to be beaten. He is about to be crucified. That's worse than any of my days that I've had. But yet he loved them. He loved us. He washed their feet. He served them dinner. And he told them how much he loved them. And Jesus said, love as I love. Love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. A church member once heard those words, and God dealt with them. And we have to start where you are to move forward. And as he went and talked with the pastor and said, Pastor, I've heard your words and I'm trying to do better. I just have a question. When I pray for my enemies, should I pray for a quick death or a slow death? That's improvement. But to love as I love, to love as I love is what Jesus said. Some days it's hard to love. Some days. But Jesus says, love as I have loved you. And yes, as we set up to say, I'm going to do better. Be prepared because we will be challenged. I think with CJ's experience, when you think of an act of violence that was needless and foolish and everything else, and you think, well, Lord, how do I respond, in this situation? And we multiply that by the many different experiences that we all do have. And whenever we hear those words, love as I have loved you, love as I have loved you. And we say, tomorrow? No, love as I have loved you. And even as we hear these words today, we must be prepared because this week we'll be given the chance to love as we have been loved. Be prepared. We will be challenged in that love. That hopefully we will be Christ-like, Christ-loving, and see the transforming power of that love. Jesus gave us the example that he loved them, even though he was in the midst of the worst day of his life, surely. but he humbled himself and he served. He washed feet. He taught, for the last time, my body broken for you, my blood shed for you. I'm giving you my all. In the midst of feeling alone and alienated, even as he would pray, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Why have you forsaken me? But still he chose love. And we are here because of that love. So we have an example. We have the opportunity. We have the command. We have the demand that we must be known for our love and by our love. Love as I have loved you, Jesus says. And we put it into practice when life happens. On bad days, when we don't feel good, when people are nice to us, when they're not nice to us, on the worst days of our lives, on the best days of our lives, we are called to love as we have been loved. Thanks be to God. And as we do, let us sing Spirit Song. And if you are in the midst of a challenge or in the midst of struggling to love the unlovable, feel free to come and pray, and we'll pray with you for the challenges that loom on the horizon. 347, Spirit Song. Loving God, we thank you that you do fill our hearts and our lives with your love and your blessings, as we have received it, undeservedly so. Help us to give graciously, mercifully, lovingly,